Hey guys, today I want to address a topic that has really been on my mind lately, especially with my current pregnancy. And I think that many other women or pregnant people can relate to this, and that is navigating body image while you are pregnant. So I think for most of us, especially if you identify as female, there is just this pressure to look a certain way. We are constantly fed images that tell us how our bodies should look, and what is beauty, and luckily we're starting to see a little bit of a shift in that. We're seeing more representation of all kinds of bodies in advertisements, and I really hope that we continue to see things move in that way. But I think it's incredibly common still for women and those who identify as female to, struggle with their body image and with loving themselves. And for me, as someone who absolutely struggled for most of her life and dealt with an eating disorder, pregnancy was a really interesting thing to navigate and has been a journey. Each one of my pregnancies is a journey into a new way of looking at my body and navigating those feelings that come up when I start the negative self-talk. So prior to my first pregnancy, I had been a pretty avid CrossFitter. I absolutely loved it. I was a college athlete, so I loved the competitive nature in classes. I loved beating everybody else. To me, that was just really motivating. And having done CrossFit for a few years at that point, I had sort of achieved this body that I was really excited about and proud of, mostly because I had stopped worrying so much about how my body looked and was really more focused on performance. Like, could I get my next PR? Could I get a muscle up? I just really wanted to build my strength. And in turn, I developed this new appreciation for my body because I saw these gains, as they say, and was really excited about that. And that's not to say that, I still didn't want to look a certain way, but I was really loving the byproduct of getting stronger. I was getting more definition in my arms and my abs, and kind of had more of this athletic body that I had always wanted, that I always felt like I should have because I was an athlete, but was not really ever able to achieve until I started CrossFit. So when I got pregnant for the first time, I immediately had a lot of symptoms. By 5 weeks, I was super nauseous and really dizzy and lightheaded and all of the things. So workouts pretty much went in the toilet very quickly. And because CrossFit and being strong had sort of become part of my identity at that point, it was really hard. And I found myself being almost resentful of the baby and feeling so out of control and frustrated, and this is not what I signed up for, this is not how I thought it was going to be. So then I ended up having a miscarriage at about 10 weeks, and of course had so much guilt. Like, how could you resent this baby and this pregnancy, and what's wrong with your body that you can't even maintain a pregnancy, and just all of these horrible things. And my way of dealing with my feelings at that time was to not. And I just kind of tried to stuff them down, and I jumped right back into going to the gym 5 to 6 days a week and working full time and doing all the things. And our bodies have an amazing way of forcing us to slow down and heal and rest, whether we want to or not. And so I ended up getting really sick. I started having colds all the time, and I was getting cold sores, which is a good sign that my immune system is not functioning the way it should be. And then I started breaking out in this horrible rash all around my eyes. Like, they would swell almost shut, and I'd have to take steroids in order for that to go down. And at the time I was working in a functional medicine practice, so I did all of the testing and all of the things, and ended up finding out that I had developed an allergy to gold, which is actually not super uncommon in pregnancy or even after pregnancy. But it took a good 6 months of slowing down and letting my body heal and rest and recover from that, both emotionally and physically, before I felt ready to start trying again. And we ended up conceiving at almost the same date a year later as we did with our first. So then with my second pregnancy, I was very much focused on, appreciating my body and being present. And again, I had, sickness right away. By 5 weeks, I was really nauseous. And even though I still felt frustrated by the fact that I couldn't work out like I wanted to, especially in the first trimester, I definitely was a lot kinder to my body and a lot more compassionate and empathetic, and just realized like this is temporary. And unfortunately, I was sick with that pregnancy until almost 28 weeks. So luckily I was able to be relatively active, but certainly had a lot of challenges there. And with that pregnancy, I was very focused on, I'm going to maintain this like image of being a badass and, CrossFitting all through my pregnancy and doing all these things. And that was like really important to me for whatever reason. And I wanted to check all the boxes. I wanted to work out every day and do all the things I need to do. And I was going to have this amazing, home birth and all these things. So then when I did not end up having a home birth and I had to transfer to the hospital and ended up having a C-section, there was this whole new sense of disappointment in my body. Like my body had kind of let me down. I didn't have the vaginal birth that I had wanted. And that was a really interesting thing to experience because, again, it wasn't necessarily my body image that I was feeling upset with, but it was this kind of loss of confidence in my ability to birth a baby. However, I will say that postpartum, especially after about the first 6 weeks, I felt so good and proud of my body for how it was able to heal after going through a pretty traumatic birth, plus trying to heal and nurse a baby. It's a lot. So kind of started to gain some more confidence there. Now, after Nash was born, I lost weight really, really quickly. Breastfeeding just absolutely took the weight off of me, which doesn't happen for everybody, but for me it did. I was back to pre-pregnancy weight by probably about 3 months. By 6 months, I was about 10 pounds lighter than pre-pregnancy weight. So I was very, very thin. And this was a really interesting time because I had kind of gotten the body that I always thought I wanted. I was about 135 pounds, which I just thought was the greatest thing, or thought I was going to think was the greatest thing. But I was so frustrated because I felt incredibly weak. So when I would get in the gym and, want to lift a certain amount of weight and I couldn't, I was so frustrated and down on myself because I just wanted to be strong like my former, CrossFit self. And so that was really hard because that is where I really lost a lot of my self-confidence, especially again, having identified as a CrossFitter prior to pregnancy. So then at 9 months postpartum, I got pregnant with my third pregnancy. So baby number 2, my little boy Gray. And that experience was incredibly healing in so many ways because we hadn't been trying. So I was very much more laid back with that pregnancy. I had a 9-month-old to look out for, and I was trying to breastfeed him and just kind of survive. So I was making sure my basic needs were met and I was taking care of myself, but I wasn't so type A and, check all the boxes with that pregnancy. And that pregnancy was beautiful. I was hardly sick. I loved every minute of it. I had a good amount of energy considering I was, dealing with a 9-month-old and, a toddlerish age one at that time, and really still a baby. And I loved being pregnant with him and just felt this new sense of appreciation for my body because not only was I growing a new baby, but I had recently gone through a C-section and, postpartum recovery, and I was breastfeeding and pregnant, and my body was able to do all these things. So how incredible is that? And so then I planned another home birth, and after pushing for 3 hours, transferred to the hospital and, had all these horrible flashbacks of my first birth, and luckily was able to have a successful VBAC, a vaginal birth after cesarean, once we got to the hospital, which was incredible because only 13% of women who have a C-section go on to have a successful VBAC, which is, a pretty slim amount. So I was so amazed by my incredible body. After that birth, I just felt like a rock star. and just incredibly proud of what my body was capable of doing. So then I was able to tandem nurse both boys and heal from birth and, do all of that. And I just at that point felt so amazing in my body because of what my body had been able to do over the last, 3.5, 4 years. So now I am in my fourth pregnancy, my third healthy pregnancy, and I'm 17 weeks and navigating kind of these feelings that are coming up with this little one. So because this is my, third pregnancy to get to at least this point, my body has changed so much already, and my body looks a lot different now than it did with my other two. My boobs have gotten a lot bigger, a lot faster, which I'm like shocked by because mine really didn't grow that much with the boys. I have this big belly. My belly was definitely not this size until probably 26 or 27 weeks with Nash for sure. I have this much rounder booty, which I've never experienced. My butt usually goes outward versus, back in that nice little bubble, which I always thought I wanted. And it's kind of interesting to have now. And yeah, my shape has just changed so dramatically, so quickly with this pregnancy. So I was purchasing maternity clothes earlier this week or last week and found myself kind of starting in that negative self-talk because I had to measure myself and, pick out the clothes, and was starting to feel all of those old feelings and all those old voices creeping in about, you're getting fat and, you're not going to get your body back, all these things that are just absolute bullshit. And it's hard to navigate that. So I had to just take a step back and breathe and remember, like, what is important right now? My body is going to change. My body is going to mold and do whatever it needs to do in order to support this pregnancy and grow a healthy baby. And so I can either choose to love it through the process, or I can choose to resent it and, be frustrated with it, which I've been there, done that, and it's not pleasant. So yeah, it's interesting sitting here now going through this after, 2 other pregnancies and experiencing these feelings. So I wanted to share this because so often when I speak with women, particularly nutrition clients, that's their big frustration. Like, I can't believe how much weight I'm gaining. I can't believe how big I'm getting. Like, I'm counting all the food. I mean, you can do all the things. You can exercise and, eat the right foods and do all the stuff, but your body is going to do what it needs to do. And that is a beautiful thing. It is nature's perfect design for, creating new life and bringing that life into the world. So I just want to encourage you, if you're struggling with this, maybe you can relate to this, just to show up for yourself with love and kindness and compassion, and recognize that our bodies are meant to be in this, they're meant to be fluid, and you're not supposed to be one shape all of the time. And how amazing that we can, grow and change and mold our bodies in order to serve, the needs of growing a baby and breastfeeding and doing all these things. And what a blessing it is, because not everyone gets to experience this gift. So that's not to say that, your feelings are wrong or unjustified. Feel all the feelings, allow them to come, and then see if you can show up for yourself with love and compassion. So that's where I'm at today, and I hope that you'll reach out if you need any support, because I promise you I've probably been there, and I look forward to sharing more about this pregnancy and this journey.